Hi, everybody, it's Robbie, and welcome to this week of Miscellaneous Candor. Frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. Stephen and I come back this week. We have some pretty interesting conversations. I couldn't get the word interesting out, but we usually do. Diddy's back in our conversations, at least. And we talk a little bit about just the economy and the prices. We also talk about some interesting podcasts. You will learn that I love business podcasts. So, and also too, Stephen has a penchant for something I never knew. All right, tune in. Here we go. Hi, everybody. This is Robbie, and welcome to Miscellaneous Candor. Frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. It's another week, and here we are, episode 33. Stephen.
Hello, my friends. It is I, Stephen Kennedy, board-certified atheist at your service and Robbie's service if she ever wants to talk about it.
Oh my God. I don't even know what that means. Robbie's service, if she ever wants to talk about it. And guess what? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
So, it sounds like you want to talk about it.
No, I don't. I don't even know why I said that. I knew I was walking into the door.
You want to know what
No,
I
I
want to know
don't.
about you.
No, I don't. Okay, so I don't want to know. Not right now. Maybe we'll do it on another podcast, but not this one.
Perhaps a mini podcast.
Perhaps a mini podcast.
You know what? I love that idea. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the mini podcast I will do with you. Absolutely. Anytime you want.
Okay. Let's see about that. Okay.
I see we're off to getting a good start already.
As usual, everyone who listens to this. Okay, so podcast I listen to, Stephen. So I did listen to a new podcast. I know I told the audience every week I'm going to listen to a new podcast, and I did. It's not a top chart one that I said, I was going to try to listen to all the top charts if I could, and I still will do that, but I did listen to something new. So it is called The Compound and Friends. So it is a show about just the markets, and it's with this guy that I seen before that I like his perspective, and he's usually pretty like spot on. His name is Josh Brown, and he owns a
How
wealth
did you come
management.
across him? How did you find him?
Well, I was looking for some podcasts on businesses and like stocks and everything, and I was listening to another podcast. I can't remember which one, and he was on there, and I remembered him from when I used to watch a lot of CNBC. I still watch it, but not as much as I used to. And I remember too, he was at a long time ago an event that I was at where he was speaking when I worked in in that area. I mean, I didn't work in stocks, but like that overall FinServ industry. And so I always remember liking him and his perspective on things. So I was like, oh, let me check out and see if he has a podcast. And evidently he does have a podcast.
Oh, okay.
So I listened to his podcast. He has someone else on there with him. But he's really good about, well, first of all, if you got to understand the markets, you got to understand some things around like the vocabulary, what it means. So it's important to have like that base level of understanding when you listen. If you want to learn more about it and you feel like you can just like catch on, which most people I know can, because most people are, pretty intelligent when they're listening to podcasts. Um, you can probably catch on after a period of time, but if you already know all the jargon and everything, then you're going to be able to jump in pretty quickly. Because there is a lot of that. Because as I said, he's a wealth manager, so he just goes all in, and that's his perspective. But it still is really good. I liked. It was interesting how he was talking about. They were having a conversation about AI, haha, which we'll obviously get to. But it was funny. He was just saying that a lot of these things, when people are talking about what's out there, is going slower, particularly around robots. And I thought that was interesting because we've been talking about robots for the past few weeks, and here we are
What kind of
again.
robots were we even talking about?
He wasn't talking about, actually, they kind of were talking about the sex robots. They're
They
about
were?
talking about a company called Figure AI. I don't know if it's the same company that you're talking about, but they're talking about a company called Figure AI and how they started off with a certain amount of millions, and then it was 60 millions, and now it's like hundreds of millions, and they have this $40 billion valuation. And they had this, it was the other guy on the podcast. What's his name? Let's see. His name is Michael Batnick. And so he was saying he saw this whole, and then they had another guy on there named Jim. It was a guest, Jim Limenthal. It was either one. It was either Mike or Jim talking about how they saw this demonstration, and they said the robots got all hot and heavy with each other, and it was like, oh my god,
It
okay.
seems like
But then Josh pushed back, and he was like, a lot of that is show, which is true because we knew that from like the other robots from Tesla, right? That it's show, and that people are kind of operating. He said, but it's going to be so long before there's like thousands and thousands of robots in everybody's house doing all these different things.
mhm.
Like the scale, he's because you look at the robots in the Amazon warehouse and it's just an arm, it's this, and yeah, it's robots and they're doing things, and there might be a couple moving around, but it's not what we envision.
Yeah.
And he just said it's going to take us a while to get there. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. And then he said and then he feels like the next iteration of robots, outside of like the warehouse or whatever, it's going to be in the healthcare industry because we just don't have enough people taking care of older people, and the population around the world is aging. So
Mhm.
that's kind of going to be an area where that's going to be the case.
A
He
hospital
said
bathroom.
once it gets to where robots are in the military, we're all done. I
Oh, yeah.
was like, oh my God, Josh. He's like, I hope I'm gone by then. But
Yeah.
anyway, my point is that they were talking about some pretty interesting things. They were talking about, they talk about different stocks, things that they've been in, things that they've been out, what the impact is. It is very, if you are someone that wants to understand the markets or understands the markets and wants a somebody who really has some good sort of technical acuity around those types of things. So you kind of have to be a little bit of a nerd on this stuff. I mean, it's a good podcast. Um, if it's not I would say this though, it's not necessarily a general business podcast, but there are times when things like what I just discussed will show
Mhm.
themselves up. So yeah, but I
Sounds
still found it
interesting. I'm gonna
entertaining.
give it a listen. Sounds like something I'd enjoy.
Yep. So it's called and of course, as you know, I try to put the links in all of our podcasts, and we always um, give people credit when we talk about them. In here, it's called the Compound and Friends podcast. So yeah, and then I listen to my normal stuff. I listen to um, lots of you know, it's just a lot of stuff talking about current events. And you probably have noticed, audience, we haven't really been talking about that because we all have our own lives. I mean, yes, at some point we are going to talk about what's going on larger and abroad from a current events perspective and political perspective. We do interject that, but I think that life is still happening in other ways outside of that, even though that can affect people on a day-to-day basis. So that's what we've been doing the past few weeks. You've probably noticed that. So, but yeah, that was the one podcast that I listened to that was different. Oh, I did
So
know
it's
that.
definitely a gain for you. Definitely a gain. It sounds
Yeah,
like.
for sure. It was definitely a gain. I'll be listening to it again. I want to listen to Acquired, which is a more of a general one, but because they have a whole show that just dropped on Rolex, like the Rolex watches. But the podcast is 5 hours. I was like, I don't have time for that. So I got to break that up
What do you
into
mean
pieces.
5 hours?
I
One episode
mean,
is 5 hours.
one episode is 5 hours.
Wow.
Yes, that's longer than JRE.
And it's all about Rolex watches.
It's about the entire business, like the story, the historical story, what they did, how they built it,
About
where
the
it.
watch industry
Yeah.
and,
Oh,
and Rolex specifically. Okay,
I mean, I
that's
haven't
actually very
listened to
interesting.
it, but I assume because it's 5 hours, you got to have all of that in
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah. I actually
Oh,
find that specifically about the watch industry, I find that very interesting because I like watches, I collect watches,
I kind
and
of thought you
so I'm
did, which is why I brought it up.
yeah I so that's a very I'm gonna listen to that as well. That sounds very interesting because really a big part of that industry, from my perspective and any reasonable person, is just bullshit, valuation, right? It's it's not real. For example, Rolexes, why are they so expensive? Why do so many of them keep on increasing in value over time? It's all just marketing. It's all marketing. You take a brand like Hublot, which was a very low quality, low cost watch. You market it well, and you get some celebrity endorsements. You put it out there in the market so it can be perceived as a high end watch, and all of a sudden they jack up the price by several thousands of dollars. But I'm like, anyways, I'm going off on a whole other.
I
We can talk
see.
about this after we both listen to it.
I see. You have some real in knowledge. What was the name of the company you mentioned that was the watch company that was just based on marketing just now? What did you say?
Hublot,
Hugh
Hublot.
Hublot. Oh, okay. Okay.
But it's a lot of bullshit. Now there are a lot, there are some very, not a lot, there are some very good quality watchmakers out there. But the majority of the watches out there, they're taking a very standard watch mechanism. They're tweaking a little bit. They're purchasing a standard watch mechanism. They're tweaking it a little bit, and they're jacking up the price. They're putting in their specific branded watches, and they're jacking up the prices by many thousands of dollars. So it's a scam industry overall, generally speaking.
Okay. But you have some really personal ties to this whole watch thing. I didn't realize just mentioning that was good. Figured you liked watches. I think we had a conversation offline about that, but I didn't realize it was so much of a thing for you.
Yeah, because there are some watches that do a really good job. You think about they make their mechanism in house from scratch, and it's such a detailed. It's a mini robot, right? Um, so, anyways, we can talk about that later.
Okay. All right. Um, all right. So, what did you listen to, Stephen?
I, on the advice of my friend Sheena, who I've
Uh-huh.
talked about before, Sheena's the girl that I like to scare. That anyway,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, 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 yes.
I like to scare her sometimes. I tell her she's on my wish list of people that I would erase
Oh
from this
my
earth
God.
if
Oh
it
my
was legal or if we had a purge day. Anyways,
God. Okay.
he suggested, she's a sweet girl. She's a very sweet girl.
Then why
Uh,
would you want to purge her? Okay, go on. Just let's
I
again,
would
like,
absolutely not like to, but she is concerned that she would be someone I would like to erase, but she's not,
okay, this
obviously.
sounds like a little bit more than a friendship, Stephen.
You know what? I'm gonna tell her to listen to this episode, and she can give her perspective. I'm quite certain that neither of us are. Yeah, it's not like that. And she's married too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, can
Okay.
I blame her if she had a thing for me? No, of course not, because
Okay, she's married. You already said
yeah,
so.
that's not going to stop anyone from having a little crush on me. You know what I'm saying? I can't blame her. Anyways, sorry.
Okay.
I digress. Okay. Uh, so she suggested I listen to this podcast called the Mel Robbins podcast, and give my thoughts on it to her. She is a woman, and um,
So,
she,
before you start, because I don't want our audience to think that we don't listen to each other, 2 episodes ago, I talked about Mel Robbins.
you did? Oh wow! Well, yeah. All right.
The whole thing about, the under. the under implication of how you decide whether to be happy and a woman having the happiness sort of factory. And she was being interviewed. That was a Mel Robbins podcast. And I mentioned that. And the whole five
Um,
V's. Yes, that was all Mel Robbins. But go on, go on.
well, so and I was just about so it's interesting how I think the key audience for this podcast would be women, because it kind of touches on.
Oh, yeah, for
I
sure.
feel that it touches on the way women think more than men.
Are you saying that because she's a female host?
No, 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 no. I think that the topics she covers
Okay.
are they connect with the human emotion element a lot.
But I mean, is that you because you don't feel like, you know, people should have too much emotion?
That's quite a possibility. You might be.
I mean, like, is that a personal thing? Because there are a lot
It
of
could
men
be.
out
It
there
could be.
who do have emotion, especially more so now than in the past. You have men talking about going to therapy and being in therapy and going through trauma and admitting that. I
You could
mean,
be right.
these are
Yeah.
things that
Maybe I'm about this.
men never talked about before. Like when we were growing up, it was like you were a punk
Yeah.
if you said anything like this, right?
Right.
So, well, whack, punk,
I thought
weak.
it's a great podcast. There's definitely I'm certain it touches a lot of people on topics that they're interested in learning more about, and that they can benefit from these the advice that she's giving and having her guests give advice on. So I thought it was a great podcast.
What episode did you listen to? What was it about?
Oh boy, I can't remember. Hold on, I listened to a few episodes.
Oh, okay.
I think one of the ones I listened to was the most recent. I think I listened to How to Control Your Mind and Redirect Your Energy to Self Transformation. Um, let's see, I listened to the most recent one, which is How to Handle Difficult People and Take Back Your Peace and Power. Um, there was one other one I listened to, and um, it was about basically inner peace, inner confidence. I can't remember which one it was.
How to handle difficult people and take back your peace and power? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so that
I
was the
need to
most
listen to that
recent.
one.
That was that's from three. That came out 3 days ago.
Okay, so what was that one about? Did you like that one? Was that the one that you liked the best? Which one did you like the best, Stephen?
Um, the most recent one, which is How to Handle Difficult People and Take Back Your Peace and Power.
Hmm.
I wasn't a big fan of that episode just
Okay.
because I felt like it's good advice, but it doesn't take in real world situations very well. So
Okay.
it's
All
good
right.
advice, but it doesn't hit all the nuances of the actual things that happen um, in the real world. So if you're dealing with a coworker, they're giving advice on how to deal with a coworker that may not be easy to communicate with. And I've had a lot of interesting characters at work.
Hmm.
I just felt like it wasn't really how should I put this, going deep into the paint. Is that the phrase you would use?
Hard
Deep
into the paint,
hard to
deep
the
into
paint.
the paint. Go hard in the paint, deep in the
Yeah.
paint. Both of them. You said it. Either one. Either one.
Yeah. So I thought it was good principles,
Mhm.
but if you go deep and hard into the paint, it, there are so many nuances that weren't really addressed. But there are other episodes that I thought were really good, about how to go, basically training your brain on being positive. So I like that. I liked it. Was it necessarily for me that I feel like it does touch on a very emotional component of the
Mhm.
brain, and so I thought it's not this podcast is not necessarily for me, but I think it's great for a lot of people. and specifically women. But like you said, I could be biased. So
Okay, well, I mean, that's good. I'm glad you listen to Mel Robbins. Where she's usually like top 5 on the charts of podcasts. Like
wow,
she's yes, there's a lot of people that are listening to her. Um, I don't know. I mean, why? But she's like jumped. She's like top. Her and Joe Rogan go back and forth in terms of, or they call it JRE, Joe Rogan Experience, go back and forth sometimes on the top podcast, and then also too, even if she's not top, she's usually top 5. So,
wow.
yeah, I mean, a lot
But
of
I'm
people listen
curious to
to her.
find out what are her audience demographics. I'm very curious.
I would think though, I mean, if she's top or top 5, she's gotta have I mean, it's
Yeah,
gotta be
you're right.
somewhat balanced, right? It can't just
You're
be
right.
all women,
You're right.
or as some people might say, all chicks. But
But do you think the Joe Rogan experience?
yeah,
I I would think that's mostly men that listen to that, even though it's in the top. What was it? Top two.
I listen
It
to
seems
it
like
when I
it's more of a
can.
male audience.
I mean, I listen to it when I can, right? Here and there because i- it's so long. It's definitely prolific. There's a lot that comes out of it. Um, what I like the fact he does ask a lot of questions, but sometimes I feel like it's just questions. I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
like JRE, right? And I listen to it because I need to get different perspectives. And I don't mean like different perspectives in terms of what I believe. Some things he says I agree with, and some things that
Hmm.
they talk about on there I don't. And I think that's one of the things why people listen to his podcast is because you can listen to it and there can be some things where you're like, yeah, okay, I gotta give it to you, right? Depending on whatever your perspective. And then other times it's like, no, I don't think so, right? And the format is open for that. He's just talking to people
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and learning their perspective. I think the one thing I would like to see on Rogan is I would like to see him have some of the people on there that he talks about who like are his total like his contrarian piece. And I would like for that, and this again is just like my mindset. I would like to see that, and I would hope that it wouldn't turn into like a yelling, screaming match that, everybody's just on their side. I would love for that to happen where he has a perspective, the other person has their perspective. They may not necessarily disagree, but they're
Mm.
calm and reasoned and just having their different opinions. Because I
So you feel there's
said
not
this all the
there's not
time. I feel like um everybody's in their echo chamber and I would love for us to get back to a place where we can disagree without it always feeling getting so hostile and volatile.
yeah.
What were you gonna say? I'm sorry, I was just trying to finish my point.
Oh, I was gonna say that. So you feel that Joe Rogan doesn't really give his opinion about what his guests are saying. It's just questions.
He does. Now I'm not gonna you can glean what his opinions are, but I do think that he does have a forum where you could be someone who he doesn't necessarily agree with personally, and he would still be the same as he is with the people who he agrees with. Like he might be a little bit more excited or something, but I feel like he does have the capacity to be measured and not just attack. And that is one of the reasons why I do think too he
Mm-hmm.
has a good show. I mean, like, there are people who listen to him. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with everything, and I know there's people who don't, but I will give him that. And I would like to see other people on his show more people on his show who don't agree with him. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see that because I think it will help us in general. As we've talked about this whole engagement thing, just be a little bit more, human to each other. I
Because he
just
doesn't have such a big platform
because he has
to,
such a big
to
platform.
play a good
Yeah.
example. No.
Yes, I feel like if Joe did it, then people would be like, "All right, you know what? Maybe I can chill
Hmm.
too," right? And I do think that he has that type of power, and I respect that. I don't, as I said, I don't, not saying that I'm all, hardcore into JRE, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to as shit post him, right? Like I'm not going to just be like Joe organization, he's that, and he's da, da, da." And I've heard that on other podcasts. I refuse to do this, and or he's this and that, and yeah, and I mean, like I get that. Like I get that if you agree with him, and I'm not saying don't say that. That's your opinion of him. Fine, say whatever you want to. There's still free speech in this country, and until there's
Hmm.
not, you can say whatever you want. But what I will say is that I respect the fact that he has a platform that even if he is saying things or there's implication where he doesn't necessarily agree, you can tell that if he had someone on the opposite side, he would not necessarily attack them. And that's what I think people long for. And I also too think that's why people listen to his show. So I would like to see more people on there that even his audience or others think he wouldn't have on there. Maybe I should say it that way. I would like to see that because I think that people wouldn't say they'd be surprised, but I think they'd be presently pleased with the fact that he would give them respect, the same respect that he gives to the people who he does agree with.
Hmm.
So that's my perspective.
Can we also talk briefly about your obsession with Theo Von's podcast? I
I
think
didn't
it's just
say
so
it was an
fascinating.
obsession. Okay, we can talk about it, but it's not an obsession. I listened to it one
It's
time with
Oh, really?
with
Okay.
with Scott on there. Yeah, I haven't listened to it since.
So, are you saying it's more about my obsession with you? It's my obsession with me thinking you're obsessed with Theo Von?
Yes, this is
Yeah.
all in your head.
Because I'm sending you clips all the time now.
I noticed that, and I was like, "Why are you sending me these?"
I,
I mean it. I'm like I said I would. I listened to. Well, actually, I listened to him twice. I listened to it twice. I listened to when Scott Galloway was on there because I love Prop G,
yeah.
and then I
Like,
listened to it when Cat Williams was on there. Cat Williams was on there
okay.
recently in January, and I love Cat
I
Williams.
still haven't listened to that one, but that's going to be entertaining.
And so that was it because of a variety of things. One, I'm busy. We're all, you and I, this is not our day job. So, there's that. But also, too, there are other podcasts I want to listen to because of, what we do on this show. So, um,
Speaking of Cat Williams, I'm curious if he's going to have any questioning during the trial.
okay, so
He's
are we moving?
causing
Let's
so
move
much
to current
attention.
events. Let's move to current events. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So, audience, what Stephen is alluding to is the fact that in our pre conversation about, what we were going to talk about on the podcast, and I just need to pull this up so that I can get everything right on this conversation.
You seem really excited right now, Robbie.
I know, because we haven't talked about this in a while, and I've been staying away from it. But evidently, everyone, did you hear one of Diddy's lawyers left him? That's right. One of Diddy's lawyers said, I can't serve with you anymore. I can't serve on this team of lawyers and defend Sean Combs. And so I'm trying to find it. They actually had a pretty good summary about it on TMZ. And I know people are like, oh, TMZ, but if anyone knows TMZ, actually, even though it is a rag, ooh, I'm sorry, I wouldn't say it's a rag. People call it celebrity rags, but even though people think about it that way, they are legit. So, okay, here it is. Diddy's lawyer. Um, what's his name? Blah 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 blah. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh man, I should have had this ready. Anyway, one of his lawyers quit. That's that's really what it comes down to. And so people were thinking, well, why is one of his oh, here it is. Diddy attorney jumps ship. This was February 22nd or so. Anthony Rico, exit from Diddy's camp, tells us there had been a power struggle going on between lead attorney Mark Anganafilio and him for several months, and it finally came to a head. As we reported, Rico shook up Diddy's team Friday morning by informing the judge he could no longer effectively defend his client. But filing,
Hmm.
yes, that's what he said in a filing. So I was like, wow. So the Diddy case is coming up, I believe, in May. There is another podcast that I need to listen to that I'm going to listen to by next week, and I'm going to get all the deets because she goes into all of it. Um, so I just thought that was interesting. And you said, it's going back to Stephen, what he said is Cat Williams going to be on the stand for the Diddy case? I
Oh,
don't
he is.
know.
Wow. Okay. Oh, he's not.
I said, I don't
Oh,
know.
you don't know. Okay.
I
Okay.
don't know. Do you think he might be?
I think he might be because apparently, well, from the prosecution side, yeah, because apparently he's got so much info on Diddy that he's been publicizing. So, if he's got some legitimate info, which I would think he does, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there.
You're talking about because he was on Club Shay Shay and he called it out and then everything blew up? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the times. Yeah.
Have you ever listened to Club Shay Shay, that podcast? Or
No, no, no,
watched it?
no,
Oh, that's a whole nother thing. You know what Club Shay Shay is, right?
no. Tell me.
Okay, so Club Shay Shay is Shannon Sharp, who is a ESPN correspondent slash newscaster, sportscaster. He used to play football, and he has this podcast called Club Shay Shay where he interviews different celebrities, and they drink in his looks like a man cave. They usually drink some sort of bourbon or something. I don't know, whiskey, something, whatever. They're having a drink, and then they talk about everything that's going on. And on one of the episodes, Cat Williams was on there, and he was talking about how he never went to Diddy's parties and all this stuff, and stuff is going to come out, blah 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 blah. And then all of this stuff came out.
So that's the clip I saw. The clip I
Yes,
saw about that was from
yes,
Club Shay Shay.
yes. It
Yes.
was from Club Shay Shay, but that
Okay.
is also a podcast you can listen to.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to listen to that podcast.
Okay, just give me a
So that's
heads
so that's
up.
the clip they kept on showing on TV.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. If you listen to Club Shay Shay, you got to give me a heads up so I can listen to the same one we can discuss because that would be a whole nother conversation for this podcast. A discussion on Club
The
Shay
name
Shay.
sounds. The
Hmm.
name sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean he's getting a lot of people. So anyway, um, I will say one thing that I thought was ridiculous this week from a current events perspective. Did you hear about this thing? Are they talking about how Stephen A. Smith should run for president?
No, I have not. Enlighten me.
Yes, there was some news coming out that saying there was like, I don't know, a very small single digit percentage saying that Stephen A. Smith should run. I guess for Democratic Party. I don't know. Democrat. I don't know if it's for Democrats or for Republicans, but they're just saying that he should run for president because of how he
On what
talks.
basis?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, in the current environment, based on you see all these people that are being, uh, put into high level roles, it doesn't surprise me.
I mean, I know, right? I mean, you go from Fox newscaster to being head of the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
But I will say, I will have to say, because I like to be fair, even if I do think that's just ridiculous. Um, he did serve in the armed forces. Pete Hegseth did serve. Pete Hegseth did serve in the armed forces. So, I'm giving him that. I'm not. So yeah, but yes, there are some other people, and he's just like, what is happening here? I don't think that Stephen A. Smith would win. I don't know, but
I think
maybe
if
I'm not in
he
touch with America.
I think if he ran on the Republican ticket, then he would win,
You
but not if he
think
ran.
if Stephen A. Smith ran on the Republican ticket for the President of the United States, he would win?
I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance. Look at what we're doing. We're dealing with a whole new world here. This is, I think, Donald Trump's influence is one thing, but I think what he's done now is opened up a whole new set of options, which were not available, which were not plausible uh, in the past.
Wow.
So I think it's
Okay,
one
well,
thing.
let's not remember what we promised for this.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right,
So,
right.
yes, okay.
Yeah, please.
Club Shay Shay, Stephen A. Smith. It's actually my fault because I did bring it up. So I.
But yeah, so I'm gonna have to listen to Club Shay Shay. So in addition to that, that announcement that he made on Club Shay Shay,
Hmm.
uh, he's been very vocal about Diddy and all the bad things he's been up to. So if he and he seems to always get things right, right? So
Right?
I think he might have some legit info. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was put on the stand.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. Okay, so yeah, so I did have to talk about the lawyer leaving, and then wow, we're talking about Cat Williams on the stand on
And
Diddy.
by the way,
Hmm.
if our listeners are not familiar with Cat Williams, all I can say is go watch the movie Friday.
I
Maybe next Friday. I can't remember which one.
think it was next Friday. He was in next Friday. And then also too, I mean, he's just a known comedian. So you can Google like Cat Williams comedian. You can see some.
Something about him reminds me of Prince.
He does have that vibe. He was talking about on. That was what's interesting on Theo Vaughn. He was talking about how he and Prince were cool and they would hang out with each other. Yeah,
That doesn't surprise me. They're
yeah.
probably fucking each other too.
No, in fact, that came up, and he was like, "No, we were with, as he would say, it was be me and Prince and a lot of other bitches. And I have my bitches, and he had his bitches,
Interesting.
So I mean, that's how he talks. But yeah. So no, Cat is not. That's not his. He's not. That's why he was talking about the Diddy stuff, right? Because he's not
Right.
on that. He's not on that path. He's not down that path.
What's interesting, he gives off that impression that he would be, right?
Why? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. Why do you?
Just the way he is, it seems like
What
he
what
would
what
be
is what is it about him?
just the whole persona. And I get it, it's showbiz, so that's probably what he probably tries. But I feel like he gives off this vibe.
I don't think
There's
so.
a very intentional vibe that he gives off.
A vibe of what? Being bisexual?
No, a vibe of doing crazy shit.
Doing crazy shit and then being with other men on the down low, I think is two different things. I don't
Oh
think
yeah,
he gives off that kind of
I'm talking
vibe.
about. He seems. If you had put P Diddy and Cat Williams in front of me and said, "Who do you think is the one doing crazy shit out there?" I would pick Cat Williams, just on the face of it.
Well, I mean, I
I'm
think
not talking
no.
about having gay sex. That's absolutely
Oh,
normal.
okay.
I mean, not for me, but it's normal for many people, and
Everyone
it's
he
still
said it's
fine. I'm talking about
absolutely
doing crazy
normal for
kind of stuff that P Diddy is doing. What did you what did you say?
I'm just messing with you because you said that's absolutely normal. And I was like, he said it's
I
just
mean,
absolutely normal for him.
there's nothing wrong with it for the people that are gay.
Yes, yes, okay. I see what you're saying.
But I'm talking about crazy
Perspective.
illegal stuff that Diddy was doing.
Well, I mean, okay. I think that there is a lot to unpack in the statement that you just said, and that's another mini pod. I mean, we have so
Ooh, I
many
like
mini pods that are going on in there just because I don't see that, and I just the fact that you would line them up and then say who's doing that in and of itself is loaded, right? Because why would you just that's just loaded
because
in and of itself.
because P
It,
because
yes.
uh what should I call him? P Diddy, because Diddy is actually the one that did these things, and we're talking about Cat Williams speaking out about all the bad things that Diddy's done, right? So
I just
I
don't
think
think
it's
I
funny
don't see
that
that.
that Cat Williams is really a proper person, whereas he doesn't give off that vibe.
What's a proper person?
Let's see, someone that doesn't molest underage children.
So but in the past, you thought that when you look at Cat Williams, that he would do that.
No, I wouldn't make that kind of assumption. What I mean is, if someone said, if someone put Diddy and Cat Williams in a room and said one of these people are molesting children, who do you think it is? I would have selected Cat Williams over P Diddy.
Okay, that's crazy. I don't, first of all, as I said, the question in and of itself is loaded. If you're putting them in the room, independent of the charges and everything that's been brought
Yeah,
against it, right? That's just a loaded question. The idea that you would, one, ask it, and two, you would pick those two people, put them in the room and say, pick these ones. Like, I mean, like, I have a lot of issues with that just on its
tell me.
own
Let's talk about
basis.
it.
No, I don't want it because that's too long of a conversation right now. We still have other
Okay,
things to talk about, and we both have places to be and do today. Um so yeah, like that's just a lot. I would not say that. I think that that comes with just a lot of preset assumptions about how someone looks. Like, and I just no, I don't think that he gives off that vibe. He's a comedian. If you've seen anything about him as a comedian. Now, I know that in the past, I think he's had some like issues with either like drinking. There were some things that saying that he had some drug problems, but then he said he didn't. But in terms of like being a vile human being, there was nothing out there like that. I don't know.
right. There's nothing out there like that. But I'm
And that's but
saying, if
I know
you
what
were
you're
to
saying, but I
compare
think that
him
that
to,
again, no,
I love this.
we're
Let's do
going
it.
down. I know you like
Let's
this
do it.
because you love all of the
No,
flustering. Okay, so
no. Can we talk more
no, we're
about
at
this?
40. No, we're at 40 minutes.
Okay, right.
We're at 40 minutes. We're at
All
40
right.
minutes. Okay, so last topic. Uh, whew, well, we have a couple more. Okay, really quickly, I did want to talk about this piece. Because we talked a little bit about this last week in terms of AI stuff, but I did want to talk about what I'd seen regarding AI that like investments, and we talked a little bit about this last week, and I was just looking at it in a little bit more detail just in general for our audience. I'm just trying to pull it up. Oh, here it is. Oh, and of course now it's gone. Really? It just disappeared just like that. Wow, that's crazy. Evidently it fades out on you. Okay, so this week there's this company, and I'm going to name these companies, and I'm sure you guys, well, maybe some of you have heard of it if you're listening to this. So there's a company called Ori Industry, and they just secured $140 million to expand their AI compute as a service across Europe. Then there's another company called Augury. They got $75 million of funding, maintaining their 1 billion valuation, and they are expanding their AI powered industrial solutions for machine health, process optimization, and predictive maintenance. Okay. Another company, Sonus, closes 65 million for real-time speech understanding AI, and evidently the customers that are looking to use them are also two AI companies, like a company called Writer. Thought that was interesting. Then there was another one, what is it? Beastin, these names, Base 10 raises $75 million to spark an optimized AI inference. What is AI inference, right? Um, that's the part where, oh yeah, Writer is going to be a part of them. And then there was another one, AI cloud acceleration, 305 million. And then another one, GenSpark, 100 million for optimizing AI search markets like Google, OpenAI, and Perplexity. So there would be another one out there, right? Anthropic, Claude, they just got an additional funding round to of $3.5 billion.
Wow.
Ninja One got $500 million for what? They are founder-led they have 24,000 customers, and they are expanding their AI and IT automation capabilities. And then another one, Metronome, and they power billing for major AI and software companies, and they just got $50 million. So, it's like you got to dig into
Please.
these, and you look at all this money for these AI related types of businesses, and they're building. They're still building, they're still growing. Obviously, it's going to impact all of
Mm.
us, right? But it's still in the process. So while it's coming, we still have our day to day. And I just guess that's what I want to put out there. I know there's been a lot of like, what's this going to do? Is this going to do this? Is this going to do that? And even, and I talked a little bit about Josh Brown's perspective on it. Um, and it's clearly coming. And even I think, as I said, Elon was on JRE recently, and one of the things I didn't listen to the whole thing, but one of the things he said was like, in 5 years they would have robots that are going to be doing all these things that are like a human. But again, is that going to happen in 5 years? I don't know. Um, I saw a
Well,
flying car. Oh, that's one thing too. In San Mateo, there's this company that just released a flying car. And there's a video of it. I'll send it to you. So that's coming too, and I'm sure that has some sort of AI in it. But again, it's not here today. It's coming, but it's not here today. Is that what we're gonna
you
say,
know,
Steve?
well, I was going to say, I think I think it's well documented that none of Elon Musk's predictions of his own companies or other companies have actually come to fruition in the timeline that he suggested. I think he does. I think he makes these predictions, and I think all these predictions, what you're talking about regarding the speed at which these products will come to fruition. I think, and I may be a little dark, but I think it's all about manipulating the stock market so people can make money off of it right now.
Well, these companies that I talked about were all private companies, and they were going back to the point that I made last week that there are a lot of these companies that are being created right now, and there's jobs that are being created, and many of these things, if you look at them, they're for back end type of systems or tools that are going to help people be more productive or efficient. Um, so there's that part. I don't know about the whole I can't say that that has anything to do with manipulating the stock market.
What do you mean? So
I
first of
mean,
all,
I don't see the connection.
if we're talking about consumer products, right? These companies are using components. So if you say that a flying car is coming out in next year, for example, the component parts, these public companies that are producing and supplying these parts, their stocks are going to rise. Um, so it's across the board. There's so many different components for these consumer products.
But
Um,
that's not stock market manipulation. I mean,
oh, sure it
that's
is.
not, no, it's not.
Absolutely. If I'm saying that, if I'm manipulating the market by saying, "Oh, well, this product is going to come out," if Elon Musk is saying, I'm going to have human like robots uh, going live next year," that's manipulation because he knows that's not true.
Okay, that's you thinking that his intent is what his intent
Exactly.
is. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these other companies, and I'm talking about these other investments, and I'm talking about these other things that are happening. And if you see that a flying car is happening, that's just based upon a forecast and how technology is moving. I don't
But
classify
why do
that
you
as
think
stock
people are making
manipulation.
if
Huh?
you but we but I think if you look at the progress, like you're saying, it's a lot slower than people are actually implying.
But it doesn't mean that it's not happening. Just because and the slowness, when I'm talking about slowness, I'm saying that it's building. I'm not saying it's not
No.
coming. I'm not saying that and there are things that are being affected. People are losing their jobs. People are being laid off because things are being implemented that are allowing for like certain manual things to be gone. So those things are happening. I'm just saying that I don't see it as manipulation. I see it as the same thing that happened. This again is just my opinion, but I see it as kind of like, we're having a whole reset from like industrialization, the whole technology piece, and now we're going into what is AI going to really do? How is that going to embed in our economy and the things that the life we live from a technology perspective? But I think when you start talking about stock manipulation, that that is uh, it's different. Like you were talking about Musk, that's different. That's one example. And then two, you have to know the intent behind that. But overall, all of these different ones that I named, they're all private companies. They're all like series, B, maybe C or D. They're not even
They're all
public.
private companies that affect different companies that in the end serve the consumer.
Yes, but everybody knows. No, they don't also serve the consumer. Let's be clear. Some of these things do not serve the consumer. They serve other businesses, and
Who
then
serve
those
consumers?
businesses serve consumers depending on if it's
Well,
something that a consumer is going to buy. But sometimes it's not even what a consumer is going to, because a B2B thing is not a consumer. It's a business buying something for another business.
the 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 B two B, the end business is the consumer, but
It's a
then you go
client.
from being a client, but also a consumer.
Yeah, but not in like a retail perspective, not in like a
Correct.
you and me
A
perspective.
service.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Like there's a different perspective of like me, a retailer, or a retail investor versus an institutional investor, right?
Yeah.
A business versus a mom and pop store, that type of thing. So all of these things have trickle down effects, yes, but I don't see this as stock manipulation. I guess that's where I'm just not getting that. And maybe
I
it's just
But I
me.
have a very
Maybe it's
negative
just me. Maybe it's
perspective.
just me.
I I think it all comes down to look who's. Let's look at where all these these ideas coming from, where they're trickling down from, who's making money off of them. That's my perspective. I feel it's all about making money right now.
And speaking of making money right now, our last topic as we start to come to a close is let's talk about how stuff is just so freaking expensive. Like, have you gone to the grocery store lately?
No, I just order bacon online.
Oh my God. I know you're being funny.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking
No, I.
about um, how Trump was talking about when he was running for election. He was talking about how everything's so expensive, and he kept on referring to bacon and saying you can't even order bacon these days. And people were thinking, who orders bacon? The average person goes to the grocery store and buys food. One of the items might be bacon, but he kept on referring to ordering bacon from the grocery stores. It's funny.
So I'm just asking though, I mean, okay, but like I'm talking about day to day people like you and me. Have you gone to the grocery store? Like, have you seen
Yeah,
how
it's
much
ridiculous.
eggs are?
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Do you know the other day? Actually, it hasn't been the other day, and people have been talking about this, but it's so crazy to go into the store multiple weeks and see signs on the refrigerator saying, "We do not have any eggs, and we
Yep.
do not know when we're going to have any eggs." Like multiple weeks. It's one thing if you go in there, right, and you see it, and then okay, second time, maybe it's an issue. You third, fourth, five, six, you have to time when you're gonna go in and get eggs, right? It's crazy, and it's not just eggs. Like I went to the grocery store and I got a few things, and I looked at how much this cost, and I was like, I swear that I don't know, a couple months ago, this was not how much I was paying. Like it literally was $10 to $15 more than what it was a couple months ago. And I don't know if everyone else is seeing this, but it just seems like everything's going up. And
For the first
yeah,
time in my life, I had because I couldn't find, this was a few weeks ago, I couldn't find eggs at grocery stores. and for the first time, I ended up buying eggs from CVS. So, by the way, I didn't know that CVS carries eggs, but I guess they do.
You had to go to CVS to buy some eggs?
Yep, yep.
What was the
Well,
expiration date?
what do you? They were not expired eggs. They're totally
Okay.
fine. Um, the fact that I could not find them in a grocery store and I was able to find them at CVS. I don't even know why I went to CVS thinking, can I find eggs here? I guess it was a desperate moment. I don't know.
No, it's like, wow, there's eggs at
I found eggs at
CVS.
CVS. Yeah, um, overpriced, of course. But
Oh, how
you
much were
know,
they at CVS? I'm
uh,
interested.
they were about $9 for a dozen.
Oh my God.
You know?
$9
Yeah,
for a dozen eggs from a drugstore.
yeah.
That's where we are, people.
But spending so much time in the Bay Area, uh, I guess I'm fortunate for that because I just don't get sticker shock anymore. It's
Yeah, it's expensive out there.
nothing,
It's expensive.
nothing truly is shocking.
So I really hope we can get some sort of breather from all of the costs and how much everything is going up. And also too, there's like a lot of more, I just keep seeing these layoffs. We're having such a strong economy for the job things, and
You know,
it's not just the federal worker thing is huge. I feel like that could impact employment numbers and also too, depending on how it all shakes out. And this is independent of whether or not, it's you want it to happen or not, but it is going to affect a huge area that was stable economically that's no longer going to be stable.
mhm.
And who's going to pick that up? Like that part of the country, right? Who's that going to fall on? I don't know, but these they got to do something about the eggs and the prices. That's all. That's
I,
all. That's where I'm ending. I'm not saying anything more. You can have the last word.
well, I'm going to a dark place right now, but
I know.
I, I predict that we are going to descend into a third world country very quickly, very soon.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Our
I
leadership
hope that
is
that's not the case. Um,
dismantle. Our leadership they're actively dismantling our, completely dismantling our infrastructure. It's absurd. I have a few friends that are still thrilled with what's going on, and telling me that I just can't handle all the good things that are happening. And I'm thinking, do you understand how the economy works? This is bad. This is all bad.
wow. Okay. Well, I do. I'm going to be positive in that while there are things that are happening that people don't like, and there are things that are happening that people do like, that hopefully we'll get to a point where we will not gut our economy and be thrown into a recession or a depression. Because I don't think anyone, independent of what you believe, wants that. Okay, well, audience, I hope you have a good week. We will be coming back next week. We have kind of stayed away from talking about anything political, but I think next week we're going to have a conversation a little bit around some of the things that are going on from that perspective after the President of the United States addresses the nation. But for now, we are going to say goodbye, Stephen. That was a bye. Did you hear that? That was weird on the microphone.
That
Okay,
was
we're going to say goodbye. Goodbye, Stephen. What did you say?
oh,
What did you say? You
thank
said something.
you. Oh well, I'll just end it with thank you for joining us, everyone, and talk to you next week. It is I, Stephen Kennedy, board certified atheist at your service. Robbie, let me know if are going to be doing a mini podcast on these topics.
Yes. All right, everyone. Have a good week.